The morning didn't arrive with the gentle whisper of the savannah wind, but with a sharp, metallic click. Hilara, a heavily pregnant elephant, felt her heart drop, as heavy as her own immense body. She knew that sound. It didn't belong to the rustling grass or the murmuring breeze. It was the sound of a snare, a symbol of pain, and an omen of death. She quickened her pace, the best she could with her swollen belly. Her calf, a secret life within, seemed to protest with every painful step. But fear was a stronger force than any discomfort. She heard their voices, low, without warmth, like predators who spoke the language of men. Her herd was a distant memory. By instinct, every pregnant elephant seeks solitude to give birth, a personal journey that now became a trap. Hilara couldn't run, couldn't hide. Lumbering and burdened, she was an easy target. The path ahead was a scorched plain, with no trees to offer cover, only scattered rocks and brittle dry grass. Her heart hammered so loud she felt sure its thumping could be heard for miles. Her ears twitched, picking up every shift in the air, every footfall. They were getting closer. "This one's a big one," a voice echoed. "She won't get away." Hilara slowed, her heavy breathing a smoky cloud in the dry air. A sharp stone bit into her foot, a jolt of pain, but she couldn't stop. She heard them. They were so near she could smell the diesel and tobacco that clung to their presence. She surged toward a small rise, her strides desperate and heavy, but she was slow, and they knew it. There was a whoosh of air, followed by a sharp sting in her neck. A poisoned dart struck. Her legs buckled, and she began to fall, a massive mountain collapsing to the ground. Her vision blurred, and the world began to spin. They drew closer, their faces hidden by the brims of their hats, but Hilara could see their eyes. There was no compassion there, only greed. One of the men lifted a gleaming machete, and Hilara squeezed her eyes shut. It was over. She couldn't save herself, couldn't save her calf. She heard a shriek, but it wasn't her own. It was a man's scream, filled with terror. Her eyes shot open. A massive shadow loomed over her body, and then an unearthly roar shattered the silence. It was a lion, huge, powerful, with a mane the color of fire. His eyes burned with an incandescent fury, and he placed himself between her and the men. Slowly, menacingly, he took a step forward, his paws wide and his claws extended. The men raised their rifles, and the crack of the shots ripped through the air. The lion didn't flinch. He charged straight at them, and the last thing Hilara saw before consciousness faded completely was the lion leaping onto one of the men, his thunderous roar merging with a howl of pure terror. Hilara awoke to the scorching heat of the midday sun. Her head throbbed, a dull ache that resonated through her entire body. The world was still a fuzzy blur, but a strange warmth radiated from a nearby presence. Her body felt heavy, almost immovable, and the poisoned dart had left a burning sensation in her neck. She struggled to lift her head, her trunk barely able to twitch. The memory of the previous night flooded back. The hunters, the sharp sting, the terrifying leap of a lion. But where was he? She could still feel a faint tremor in the ground. A low growl rumbled nearby, a sound that should have signaled a new threat, but instead it sounded like a warning. Hilara's eyes slowly adjusted. Lying a few feet away, his head resting on his paws, was the lion. He was magnificent, his mane a cascade of gold and russet, his muscles rippling even at rest. But his eyes were fixed on the horizon, not on her. He was watching, a silent guardian. The tension was palpable. An elephant and a lion, the hunted and the hunter, now bound by an act of impossible defiance. Alara felt a deep ache, not just from the venom, but from a profound loneliness. She was so close to giving up, to letting the heat and the poison take her. The lion, as if sensing her despair, rose to his feet. He walked to her side and nudged her gently with his massive head. It was a gesture of encouragement, not a predatory move. Elara tried to rise, her legs trembling, but she collapsed with a soft grunt. Her body was too weak. The lion let out a low, mournful rumble. He seemed to understand. He began to pace back and forth, sniffing the air, his eyes darting from side to side. A new danger was approaching, a scent he knew well. He let out a deep, guttural growl, his teeth bared in a silent threat. He was protecting her. Elara couldn't believe it. This lion, the king of the savannah, was now her defender. The sun was a relentless fire in the sky, and she felt herself fading. Her calf, her sweet, precious calf, was at risk. She let out a soft, whimpering sound, a call for help that no one could hear. The lion turned his head, his eyes meeting hers. There was a flicker of something in his golden irises. Recognition? Empathy? He seemed to know her desperation. He licked a wound on his paw, a gash left by one of the poachers, and then looked at her with an intensity that chilled her to the bone. Suddenly, a new scent drifted on the wind, a stench of death and hunger. The lion's ears flattened against his head. He turned to face the direction of the smell, his body low to the ground, a coiled spring ready to strike. Through the heat haze, Elara could see them, a pack of hyenas, their yellow eyes gleaming with malevolent hunger. They had caught the scent of blood. They were not hunting, they were scavenging, and they saw two easy targets. The lion stood his ground, a lone warrior against a dozen. Elara, helpless and weak, could only watch as the hyenas began to circle, their low chuckles a chilling prelude to a brutal fight. The air thickened with the guttural cackles of the hyenas. They moved in a loose circle, their shadowy forms a menacing blur in the fading light. The lion stood over Elara, a living shield of muscle and fury. He was magnificent, a picture of defiance. The alpha hyena, a grizzled female with a limp, lunged first. It was a feint, a test. The lion, quick as lightning, swatted her away with a powerful paw. The fight began. Roars, snarls, the sickening sound of teeth on hide. It was a brutal ballet of survival. The hyenas, though individually weaker, relied on their numbers and their relentless chaotic attacks. One would snap at the lion's leg while another tried to get to Elara. The lion was a whirlwind of power, his claws and teeth finding their mark, but he was being worn down. He was wounded from his previous confrontation, and he was alone. A gash opened on his flank, and a spray of crimson stained his golden fur. Elara watched in horror, her heart pounding with a helpless dread. The hyenas pressed their advantage. They swarmed him, a living tide of yellow eyes and gnashing teeth. The lion let out a desperate roar, a sound of frustration and pain. He was faltering. Elara, in her weakened state, felt a wave of despair. She was going to die, and her calf with her, and so was the only creature who had shown her kindness. She had to do something. She couldn't fight, but she could make noise. With every ounce of strength she could muster, she let out a piercing trumpet, a sound of pure agony and defiance that shook the ground. The sound, a desperate, mournful call, echoed across the savannah. It was a plea for help, a cry that reverberated in the very soul of the wilderness. The hyenas hesitated, briefly startled by the raw power of the elephant's cry. This was their chance. One hyena, emboldened by the lion's wounds, lunged for his throat. It was the end. The lion saw it too. His eyes met Elara's, and for a fleeting moment, a spark of understanding passed between them. He closed his eyes, preparing for the final blow. And then, in the distance, a different sound, a low rumble, a building thunder. It was the sound of her herd. They had heard her cry. They were coming. The hyenas heard it too. Their low chuckles turned into panicked yelps. They scattered, running in a desperate panic. But it was too late. The ground began to shake with the thunderous charge of the herd, a wall of gray and ancient fury. Elara watched as her family, her protectors, arrived to defend her and the lion who had so selflessly defended them both. The thunderous charge of the elephant herd brought the world to a standstill. They arrived as a unified force, a living wall of gray hides and ivory tusks. The hyenas, their courage shattered, scattered into the darkness. The herd surrounded Elara, their low rumbles a soothing song of reunion. She let out a soft cry of relief, a sound of profound gratitude. Her sister, a matriarch with ancient wisdom in her eyes, approached first, nudging her gently with her trunk. Elara responded with a weak but loving tap of her trunk against her sister's head. But then the herd's attention shifted. Their eyes, once filled with fury, now fell upon the lion. He was still standing, but his breaths were shallow, his body slumped with exhaustion and pain. A collective unease rippled through the elephants. A lion in their midst, one who had fought alongside them. It was unheard of. The matriarch let out a low rumble, a sound that wasn't a threat, but a question. Elara, gathering what little strength she had left, slowly lifted her head. She looked at the lion, then at her herd, and finally she raised her trunk and gently, almost reverently, touched the lion's mane. It was an act of recognition, a silent declaration to her family. This lion was not an enemy. He was a hero. The matriarch, understanding the unspoken truth, responded with a soft, accepting trumpet. The herd, one by one, lowered their heads in a gesture of respect and quiet gratitude. Over the next few days, the improbable pair became a sight to behold. While the herd rested, the lion stayed close to Elara, a silent guardian. He didn't hunt. He didn't prowl. He simply rested by her side. Elara, slowly recovering from the poison, would often nudge him a gentle thank you. Her calf was finally born, a tiny, wobbly creature who looked at the giant lion with curiosity, not fear. The lion watched the calf, his fierce eyes softening with an emotion that looked a lot like pride. The story of the pregnant elephant and her lion protector became a legend whispered on the wind. It was a testament to a truth we often forget, that sometimes the fiercest of hearts can hold the greatest kindness. They were two kings of different worlds, united by a desperate moment and an act of selfless courage. The lion, a solitary creature, had found a family. The elephant, on the brink of death, had found a friend. And so, as the sun set over the savannah, they rested together, an impossible family forged in fire and faith. It was a powerful reminder that our world, though often harsh, is filled with hidden moments of magic. Nature always surprises with its magic of kindness,